Hello, my name is Gary Goodworth. I am the webmaster of anunseenworld.com. And today we're going to do a little bit different. I'm between the ages of 10 and 19. I had 4 encounters with the unexplained or the unknown, or what you could say, the unseen world. In my website, anunseenworld.com, the inspiration for the name of the website comes from 2 Corinthians 4, verses 17 and 18. For this slight momentary affliction, our time on earth, is preparing us for an eternal weight of glory beyond all comparison, because we look not to the things that are seen, what we can see with our eyes, our physical eyes, but to the things that are unseen. For the things that are seen are transient. In other words, they're all temporary. But the things that are unseen are eternal. So there is an unseen world that can interact with us, but we can't interact with it. And the unseen world is in the eternal state. And we live in a physical world, and everything's transient in our world, or temporary. And that's what I based the unseen world on. And the first story I'm going to talk about tonight happened when I was 19 years old. I had a friend who was going to Cleveland State Community College just like I was. We were working at Hardee's fast food restaurant part-time during that time to make a little extra money. And we'd been working there about a year. We were closing one night, and the assistant man, we were talking while we was cleaning up, and the assistant manager told us to either shut up or clock out. We just looked at each other and clocked out. And then the next day, we got together knowing we weren't going back to Hardee's, kind of discussing what we were going to do. And you know how teenagers are. We weren't worried too much about income. We decided we were going to pretend to be in Indiana Jones and go exploring in a cave. My friend, who I'll leave unnamed, said he knew of a cave in a county, one county over from the county I currently live in. It's in the foothills of the Smoky Mountains, and we should, he asked me if I wanted to go exploring. I said, sure. So we went to a cave that would be the Indiana Jones type people. And it was big enough that the entrance wasn't, we had to stoop over to get inside the cave. But once we got inside the cave, we could walk around, and it was big enough to walk around. And there was more, 3 or 4 chambers, if not more. And we were walking around in the chambers, and then my friend said, Goodworth, let's split up. That's if you watched any horror movies, splitting up, even though we didn't think there was any danger, splitting up is not a smart thing to do, especially if you're in a cave, But we're 19 years old. We're still teenagers. Teenagers' intelligence can be highly questioned. So he went one way, and I went no way. I just walked around the room I was in because I thought that's not really a good idea, and I didn't want to go anywhere and fall into something or encounter something without my friend being with me. In a few minutes, my friend came back to me and said, Goodworth, are you trying to scare me? And I was puzzled, and I said, what are you talking about? He said, "Are you sure you're not trying to scare me? You're just playing with me?" I said, "I have no idea what you're talking about. I've been here, walking around in here where you went, wherever you went." And he said, "I was in this room and this strange noise occurred behind me." And I said, "What kind of noise?" He said, "Some kind of hissing noise." And I thought, what is that? And I looked around and looked around and I couldn't see, there was nothing. I couldn't see anything, but I kept hearing it and the hissing noise went away. I thought it might be you trying to scare me. And I was thinking, I don't have any idea what happened with you, but seeing as that you experienced that, we might ought to leave the cave. And before we started to leave, we did. Both of us heard this same hissing noise. And it went like, "Sss, sss, sss," and it sounded like it was right behind us. I thought it might be some kind of giant snake, but I looked around and looked around and saw nothing. And I told my friend, "I can't see what's making that noise. I thought it was a snake, but I can't see anything." I thought, a loud hissing noise, louder than, so it'd be a very big snake in my mind or something else altogether. But we couldn't see anything. And so we decided we better leave. And then we got into a little brief argument who's going to go out to the cave first. And he capitulated and said, "All right, I'll go first, Goodworth. You just stay right behind me. You just let me know if anything comes up behind you. Let me know, and then if anything comes in front of me, I'll let you know." So we started to walk out of the cave, and then he said, "Goodworth, look out." And I thought, oh no, whatever it is, this is it. We're facing the music right here and now. But what he was telling me to look out for was our arguing over who's going to go out first had disturbed a bat, and the bat was flying over our heads, and we both ducked. And the bat missed, didn't hit us, but it flew right over his heads. But that was not what was making the hissing noise. And in this picture here, it's kind of the way I felt, a bat out of hell or whatever, because of that hissing noise that we couldn't see what was making it and we couldn't figure out what it was. So we left the cave, and of course we discussed what that possibly could have been. But one thing we never did do is go back to that cave. Neither one of us was comfortable with that after what we encountered. We didn't want to find out whatever it was that made that strange hissing noise. And that was in the spring of 1977. The movie Raiders of the Lost Ark hadn't even come out yet. But we were looking for a little adventure before we moved on to the next stage of our lives after quitting Hardee's. I ended up working for a place that delivered furniture for a year or so after that while going to school. But that's the story. I won't I've got 3 other encounters I'll go over, but not every week. Maybe a couple weeks I'll do another one. Maybe we'll get back to a Bible study next week. But I do thank you for watching. May God bless. And you have a good day, good night, good evening, or good morning, whichever the case may be. Bye-bye.